I am a fan of this topic because I think it's one of the practical topics that every person who's doing business studies needs to go through. I remember when I did corporate finance, which is the other reason why I'm not able to shift to the CBU terminology for this course. I studied this course when I was getting certification for investment and portfolio management. And I found that this course is very practical and it's very simple. And if you just take the time to learn it, you'll love it. So far, we've looked at two core topics for the examination, and we're now going to the third one. So this should make the 75% of your session, or aside the other two topics that we've looked at. So now, I want to highlight, first of all, that as you begin to study this particular course, like I have emphasized in the last two topics that we've dealt with, we are going nowhere here if you're not dealing with formulas, if you're not knowing your principles properly, because basically the foundations and the entirety of this course is based on that. I'm not sure. I don't think from the papers that I've seen, CBU doesn't offer the formula table for this course, so you and the formulas, you just need to know each other because you're not going to answer anything without knowing those formulas. So we're going to begin this revision with this first question, and then we'll continue the last two in our lives. So with this particular one that we are setting out for your question bank, the question says Ardea Limited has an outstanding 100,000 kwacha par value bond with a 6% coupon interest rate. The bond was issued on 1st January 2010 with 30 years to maturity. If interest is paid semi-annually, find the value of the bond and indicate whether the bond is selling at premium, discount, or par when the required return is 5%, 6%, 10%, and 10%. Assumed date today is 31st December 2024. Okay. So, before we even solve anything here, we need to go back to our principle, which we said that a bond's price is simply the present value of cash that you receive from holding it. So that principle is still going to be applying here. And in this particular instant, in this question, we have been given information on the return investors want, and we are being asked to solve for the price. So that's what we're going to be solving for. So before we solve, let's go through some key formulas or key principles that we need to know. First of all, we need to remember that the price value principle is such that our price is always equivalent to our price value of the coupon's annuity plus the price value of the first value of the lump sum that you receive from the bond. And then when solving this question, we must take note to match our periods, like we've previously discussed. Match our period, because if we convert the annual rate in the years into the payment frequency, like in this question where we have semi-annually, meaning the rate is going to be given twice in a year, we will be able to also get the periods involved with this particular bond. Okay, so you need to know to match your periods. If you can't match your periods, you solve wrong things. Then we must also be able to interpret the value at which the particular bond is selling at, okay, in the market, the trading rate. So the rules of trading are that if the coupon rate is higher than the required return, then that's premium trading. And if the coupon rate is equivalent to the required trading, then the particular bond is trading at par. And if the coupon rate is less than the required return, then it's trading at a discount. Of course, I thoroughly went through this in the recorded tutorial. I think we've had so many discussions here, so we can just skip through some of these things. We should be chorusing these things by now. And then the other thing that we need to remember as we begin to answer this is also the inverse relationship that exists between the bond price and the market yield. Please remember that bond price and market yield always moves in opposite directions. They have an inverse relationship in between them. So let's now go into our question. So with solving this question, the first thing that we're going to do is to set up the periods and the coupons. Then after we set up the periods and the coupons, we're going to apply our bond valuation method in order for us to be able to solve for what is being required in this question. I am personally tired of fighting with the board, zooming it in, zooming it out, and then losing everybody in the process. So I have gone ahead to just get the an extract from my study notebook for us to go through this question so that we do things neatly. Hey, yeah. So let's go ahead and do that. So like I said in the first step, we are going to go ahead and just solve for the periods as well as the coupons. So in solving for the periods, we need to find out the number of years that are remaining, which is what we are doing over here. So with the number of years that are remaining, in our question, we are told that the bond was issued in 2010 and then it has a maturity up to 30 years. Okay, so when we get that 2010 when the bond was issued and then we get the 30 years of maturity, we are going to come here and discover that this particular bond is going to be mature in the year 2040. Okay, so the year 2040 is when it's going to mature. So we have that in check. So now what are we trying to find here? We're trying to find the number of years remaining before maturity, and we were told that this we are making this evaluation on the 31st December 2024. So we will have to calculate for the remaining period after that, but then we're still in 2024. So the next year after 2024 is what? 2025. And we are still in 2024. We have 1 day left in 2024, so that's why we're putting it there. So we're going to get our year of maturity, which is 2040, and then we're going to subtract 2025, which is and the difference there is going to give us 15 years. And we'll still respect that we're still carrying this out on 31st December 2024, so we have that 1 day, but ultimately we're just trying to find the 15 years here, the difference. Okay, so we have 15 years remaining in order for this particular bond to mature. Okay, so after we've gotten this, the next thing that we're going to do now is calculate the number of periods that are involved. Number of periods again is given by this simple formula that I have highlighted here, which is the time left before maturity times the number of times that the coupon rate is repaid. And in our question we're told semi-annually, so every 6 months this bond there's a payout on it. So we're going to get our 15 years now and multiply it by our 2 representing the semi-annual in order to get the periods, and 15 times 2 is going to give us 30, which will give us our 30 periods that are left in this particular bond before maturity. But we don't end here. We also need to find out our coupon per period, because our coupon per period is what's going to help us to find to carry out the rest of the bond calculation methods. So coupon per period is given by this particular formula here. Now you need to take notes to always divide by the number of periods again with regards to how many payouts we're having. So in our case we're given that it's we have payouts semi-annually, so that is half of the year. So we are just getting these 2 to divide it there. So that's how come we have n equivalent to 2 over there, because it's 2. If we were told it's quarterly, we would have had 4 at the bottom there. Okay, if it's once, it would still just be 1, like that. So since it's semi-annually, we have 2 over there, and then we have 100,000 times 6%, which is giving us 6,000. When we divide that by 2, it's bringing us to 3,000. So this is our coupon per period. So now that we have all this relevant information, we can now begin to utilize it to carry out our bond valuation to find out what would trade at 5%, 6%, and at 10%, and discover if it's premium, par, or discount based on those rates. So we are not solving this question without knowing this formula. Like I have highlighted already, this is our best friend in this. If you decide to attempt this question, you need to know these key principles, especially this formula. So in this given situation, our formula is given by the bond valuation is equal to C, with the C there representing the periodic coupon, minus times 1 minus 1 plus the periodic return required, which is indicated by I, raised to the power n. And because we are compounding backwards, we have the power negative n there, and then our n is 15. Okay, and then the same values are going to apply on the other hand. So we have our future value, our face value, sorry, I don't know why I always go and say future value. Our face value divided by 1 plus our periodic required return to the power N, which is representing our periods. Okay, so we're just going to be replacing the I. The I is what's going to be changing for the most part. All these other things are going to be constant. Your C will be constant. Your N is also going to be constant, but the I is what is going to be changing there. So let's go ahead and see the valuations that we're making. So we'll start with 5%. When we start at 5% here, given what we have, this here. So here at 5%, our bond valuation, our dearest periodic coupon there is 3,000 as we found it. Okay, so our periodic coupon is 3,000, and since we had 5% per annum, meaning that every 6 months, if we divide 5 by 2, the interest is being paid at 0.025 or 2.5%. Okay, so we are going to replace that I with 2.5%, which is 0.025, and then our number of periods is 30, as we already figured out. So where there's n, we put 30, and we'll carry out the computations. So when we solve for what is here, we are getting 20,000 or 20.93029 as the value. And then when we solve for what is at the bottom here, we are getting 0.496, okay, 74 at the bottom there. So after we've gotten all this, we'll now just go on to make the calculations. When we add the two together, okay, the PV FA, this side, AF, and the PVIF. We should know these things by now. When we add our two together, our PVAF and our PVIF, we are getting this value of 110,465.15. So this value, as you can see already, it's greater than 100,000. Okay, so now since our coupon rate is given at 6% and the required rate here is 5%, we already know that 6% is greater than 5%. And what did we say is the rule? Here, where we're saying at the beginning of this, in terms of the rules for trading, if our coupon rate is greater than the required return, then we are trading at a premium. So what this indicates is that since 6% is higher than 5%, this bond is trading at a premium, meaning that investors must pay more than the face value in order for them to be able to buy this bond. Okay, so that's the calculation from there. Next, we're going to move on again in the same fashion. We are now going to calculate for at 6%. So at 6%, there's even no need for calculations here because our coupon rate as well as our required rate is the same. Our coupon rate is 6%, our required rate is 6%. So since the two are exactly the same thing, it means that we don't make any adjustments here, and therefore the bond value is going to be the same in the market. So our bond value is 100,000 kwacha, and this is an indication that we are trading at par. Okay, because our coupon rate and our required rate are both the same. So from there, we now move on to the last part, which is if we trade this bond at 10%. So if we're trading at 10% again, for 10% per period, we're going to divide that 10% by 2, which is going to give us 5%. And the 5% is what we're going to use to work out through the I throughout this entire bond valuation formula. So when we work that one out now, when we make the computations, our PVF this side and our PVIF, for our PVIF, we are getting 46,117.35, and then for our PVIF, we are getting 23,137.74. Okay, so when we add the two together, we are getting 69,255.09. Now this 69,255.09 is lower than 100,000 kwacha, and then what you also see here is that the 6% is lower than the 10% rate. So because the coupon rate, which is 6%, is lower than our required return, which is 10%, It means that the price of this bond must fall below the face value in order for us to be able to compensate our investors. And as a result, it means that this bond is at this rate is trading at a discount. So these are the things that often show up here. Of course, it's like the way I said, if you don't want to use this particular method of going the long way, you can also use the table, which I discussed with you last time, where you just get the table and then you make the various replacements in the in the bond formula and then just give the results using the table. It's still the same formula, whether you use the table or you use this one for individual calculations like this. But at the end of the day, whenever we are making computations to do with this particular issue here, your bond valuation formula, this one is key. It's very instrumental in the rest of the things. All right, so this is what we need to look at in our question bank. And of course, I'm going to go ahead and add the other parts of the questions. And when we do the last question that we're supposed to come and solve collectively together in our next discussion session, that is going to conclude and cover everything that we have done on this particular topic. So with that said, we can now safely say that we have done 3 key topics, meaning we have 75% in the bag. So you should not have a challenge when you go into the exam with passing these things. Okay, these are things where we should be smiling when we meet each other. It should not be like, oh, it should be like, oh, it came, like, okay. So that's what we are dealing with. Okay, so I'm going to end here for now. I'm also going to upload the question bank for the other questions that we did the other day. So I'm going to upload those in the PDF materials. This one is going to go under the question and answer bank for videos. Thank you so much for taking time to watch this one, and I'll see you in the next one.